The government-led reforms in Myanmar have generated both optimism and caution among many observers inside the country and around the world. Previously difficult to access by foreign journalists, our reporter Panu, Wongcha-um, was recently travelling around quite freely in Myanmar to gauge the outlook and challenges of the country's unprecedented transition. We have more in this report.
At a glance, Yangon's dilapidated buildings show what decades of economic mismanagement and Western sanctions looks like. Things are changing though for a country formerly known as Burma. Sweeping reforms recently introduced by its nominally civilian government has generated much optimism around the world, yet challenges remain, like ending the long-running ethnic conflicts in the country's many frontiers. Uneven development is another area that needs to be addressed, a challenge that other developing economies in the region also faces. In Myanmar, like in all other countries in Southeast Asia, improving domestic connectivity is paramount. The challenge now is how to expand these connectivity to benefit economic growth and create jobs. The country's main highway, which connects many major towns and cities in more than 700 kilometers distance between Yangon and Mandalay, is currently Myanmar's land transport artery, apart from its old railway network. For a toll of 5,000 kyat or around $6, the relatively underused highway is arguably the most reliable overland route. Strategically, it connects the country's economic centers from the Andaman coast to the interior dry zone, as well as its administrative center, Naypyidaw, now the country's third largest city with a population close to 1 million. While the infrastructure in the country's core is in a relatively good state, it is the periphery, the villages and rural areas, that need better roads and connections to the country's markets and urban centers, so economic opportunities as well as education and healthcare services can be evenly distributed.
We have many weaknesses in infrastructure, domestic infrastructure. Some areas in Myanmar are still very difficult to access easily. And we also, on the other hand, our government has a very limited budget to improve the infrastructure in our country by ourselves, so that we invite more investment in infrastructure development.
The current government-led reform has already won over many around the region and the world, the latest being the Asian Development Bank. Recently, its vice president was in the country as part of the bank's effort to re-engage with Myanmar after a 25-year hiatus due to the country's previous repressive regime. Normal relation with the ADB could mean an injection of millions of dollars into improving Myanmar's various basic infrastructures.
My initial impressions are we have in place here a government that is very committed and keen on reform. They understand that there are a lot of challenges ahead, and they're looking for support from the donor community and the international community to move forward on this reform plan. They will be bringing a strategy to their parliament in the coming months. That is a strategy that we believe that the donor partners ought to be helping them develop, but also supporting once it is in place.
For a country rich in resources and culture, sitting at a crossroad between China, India and Southeast Asia, there is no doubt that Myanmar possesses a huge potential for its own people and neighbors. Still in its early days, the verdict is still out on the country's transition, and it remains to be seen what lies ahead as it continues to stride forward on the path of reforms. I'm Panu, Wongcha-um of Thai News Agency, reporting for ASEAN TV from Myanmar.